Okay, a word of warning before we begin. You're working on Azure in this demo. Be very careful. It can cost you a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, and even if you do know what you're doing, if you're not careful and you don't get rid of some of this stuff or shut it down or pick the wrong selection, it can cost you a lot of money. Okay, so please be careful. Do this at your own risk. Do it on a test machine. But even on a test machine, you still might be incurring billing. So make sure you know how much you're getting billed as you're doing this, okay? So that's my warning to you. And with that, we'll continue. Hi, this is Greg Koopman. This is part 3 of a 3-part series. In part 1, we discussed an overview of the goal and the problems in finding a solution to that goal. We also identified that there's really 2 subsystems that we needed to configure. Part 2 showed us half of that. In part 2, I went into the details of setting up an Azure point-to-site connection and creating and using an Azure VPN to make a connection between my local Windows 10 home computer and an Azure virtual network. This is part 3, and this is going to show us the other half, which is utilizing Azure Sync in coordination with our VM to be able to sync changes made on the VM and automatically push those changes to the Azure shared file storage. With that said, let's jump into configuring the sync service. The first thing we're going to create is this our storage account and as a share file. So I go to storage accounts. I already have 2. I'm going to add another one. And I'm just going to call this one demo test. Okay. The resource group, I'm going to go ahead and create that under demo test also. So I create a resource group. I go to storage name. I'll call it demo test, which is already taken. So I'll say a couple numbers in there, and now it's good. And we hit Central US performance standard. That's fine. Definitely want the general purpose v2 Gen 2. Replication locally is fine. I might get rid of this thing after we get done with the demo anyways. So next, networking. We're going to leave it as all networks. And next, advanced large file shares. I'm not really worried about any of this stuff. Blob soft delete. We're not going to worry about that right now. Hierarchical. I'm going to enable that anyways. Okay, and then next, tags. Then we're not going to put any tags, and that should be it. So now I'm going to create it. It's going to validate first. It validated. Now we're going to create the storage account. Okay. Storage account looks like it's being created. This will take a few minutes. Okay, it's created. So I'm going to quickly create a file share on that. So let's go to resource. And we'll go to, we have our 4 different types of files we can use. So we're going to go to file shares. And I will just call this demo test. So I'll say file share, and that the name of it will be demo test. 5 GB total. That's fine. My name. Oh, yes, it does. Okay, create. All right. So we have our demo test there. And I think we're going to go ahead and go in there. So our file share is created. Next, we're going to go ahead and create our Azure File Sync. And the way you get to this, it's not obvious where it is. And it's not like if you go to services, you won't find it. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to go to create resource, type in Azure File Sync. There we go. And it pulls it up. Thought it would pull it up. Let's see. There it is, this first one. So I click on that. It asks me to create it, so I'm going to create one. And the group I'm going to put it in is, I'll put it in to my on-prem VPN sync. I'll just call it the same thing. On-prem VPN and sync 01. Central US. Okay. So I'm going to review and create tags. I'm not going to do create. Okay, good. It likes it. It's validating it. It's validated. So create. And there we go. Now we're done with our second piece. There's our file sync. Okay. So now when we go into, we can go into services. That's not where you create it. But if you go into services, all services, you will find a sync here. Storage sync services. So you want to go ahead and put that in your favorites, and which is that there's a holding area. It doesn't actually, can't create anything there. That's why we didn't go there to create the Sync 01. Okay, I see my Sync 01 there. Okay, and I'm going to click on that. And now we're going to add a group. Okay, so this is going to come up, and now we add a sync group. Okay, and our sync group, well, I'll give it the same name, which is in this case I'm just going to call it on-prem. There we go, group 01, right? 101. This is a group of, okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to pay as you go, select storage. Okay, so now we go in and correct, we're going to get our storage, which is a demo test 23423, right? Okay, so I'm going to go in there. I got my storage, go pass down here. Azure file share is going to pick up that file share called demo test. I'm going to create. That's going to create my group. All right. Well, that's creating the group, which it looks like it's already has done. We're going to jump over to our virtual machine. When I create the virtual machine, one of the main things you have to remember when having a machine that's going to run the sync files, you need to have Windows Server 2012 R2 or higher. Okay, so I went with 2016 server, and that's going to suffice fine. So I have a VM. That's the main thing you have to remember. I have a VM set up. You also have to set up an extra disk. You can't have your C drive. You can't have your temporary storage drive. You have, which comes with your VM. You need to set up and create an extra disk. Okay, and I've done that in part 2 of this video series, so you can go and look at how we did that and emulate that. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. So I come down here and I'm going to so as you see, if I go to my file manager, you'll see that I have a drive that's set up specifically for this purpose called new volume F. Okay, all right, so but now what we have to do is download the client service, the sync files client service. Okay, and the way we do that, we're going to go into Explorer. But before we go into Explorer, actually, I'm going to set up something because I'll never get through this this way. Go to Server Manager. See all these things. What you're going to do is get all these things every website you go to that says you can't do this, you can't do that. You got everything's blocked. It'll take you forever. So what you do is you go here to get rid of those blocking screens, and you come into, I think it's local server, and you come into this piece called Enhanced Security, and we're just going to turn that off. Now you can turn that back on later if you want. Fine, whatever you want. But for this purpose, turn that off. Go back into Internet Explorer. Okay, and now I can go ahead and Google. I need to download this client software. So I go to Google. That's what the message I'm talking about. So I might have to go ahead and I might have to go back. I had Google open, so let me turn that off. We have that. No, we didn't have that on. It must not. Okay, let's hit OK. Still says on. All right. Well, maybe I close it. Let's see. Google. Okay, it looks like it did what I wanted now. Okay, so come over here and we're going to say download Azure File Sync Agent. I see it right there. See? File Sync Agent. Okay, so you'll see download page from Microsoft. That's the one. click on that. I'll leave that. I'll leave this URL in the YouTube video description below. So here it is, very simple. Hit the download button. Okay, you're looking for Azure File Sync Agent. So hit download, and what you'll do here is you want to pick out the Windows server that you have. So I have Windows Server 16. I'm obviously going to pick that. I'm going to hit next, and it says Internet Explorer block to pop up from Microsoft.com. I don't mind Microsoft, they haven't always. Okay, so now it's downloading. Do you want to save this storage MSI from download? I just want to run it. I'm not worried about this. Isn't going to last forever. So once it comes down, it's going to run. Okay, then it might get this dialog box. Welcome. I hit next. You can read the terms up here. I'm going to accept them anyways, and I'm going to load it to the default. Use existing proxy settings configured on the computer. Okay. Use Microsoft Update. Yeah, I like that. Automatically update when a new version becomes available. Yes, I do want to do that. So I'm going to say install. And now it's going to install. So it's loading this agent onto this virtual machine, because this then is going to communicate up to the Azure account that I have set up there. All right. So that's how we're going to communicate with it, everything. So we'll see how that. Okay, now it came back finished. So hit finish. Now it's going to ask me for a login, because it needs to hold my credentials to log into the Azure with. Okay, so it's all going to be held in its agent. Okay, and here we go. I have to sign in and register this server, right? So again, it's going to store all the stuff, this agent software inside of this server, so it does its own communication with my Azure cloud that I designate here. Okay. So that's all good. So basically, I'm going with the public cloud, and I sign in. And here I have to sign in not with the credentials from the VM, but with the credentials I use to sign in to my account. You need to have an administrative account up on Azure in order to do this. Okay, so remember that also. So that will be greg.koopman at SQLcoop.com. Hit next. Go get my password. Okay, I got my password. I'm going to sign in. And I also want to mention that I'm going to leave another video of another person who did this, did a video on this sync. And he had a lot more information, or different information, that might be very useful to you. So I want to go ahead and put that in. He ran into some more problems when he actually installed this, which he shows you the workarounds for. Also, maybe I mentioned some things I hadn't mentioned. Actually, I mentioned it in part 2 video, but in this video, you want to make sure that your drive, remember I said the extra drive you put on this VM machine, it needs to be an NTFS drive, nothing else. Okay, NTFS of that type. Okay, all right. So we're going to go. So basically, it logged in. It took my login credentials fine. So I go into Azure subscription. I go to my pay-as-you-go to. My resource group in this case is on-prem VPN and Sync. And my Sync service is called on-prem VPN and Sync 01. So I'm going to register that, and it's all going to be saved down into this agent. Okay. So now I'm going to be able to talk. Well, not yet. I'm going to be able to at least, I have my communication gear ready on this VM machine. And now all I have to do is take the information and go up and sync get this information in to the Azure portal, which I'm going to show you next. So registration is successful, okay, and we are good to go. Okay, we're back. We'll go back over to the Azure portal to our sync group, and we're going to add, we need to add an endpoint. And the endpoint is going to be the server, the VM server we were just on, right? So basically, it shows our cloud endpoints and our server endpoints. So basically, our cloud endpoint is the file share we created called demo test that has nothing in it. Okay, that storage account we started right at the very beginning of this video. Now, as you notice under server endpoints, we don't have anything yet, right? Because we haven't coordinated this with the VM. But that's what we're going to do. The VM's a Win Server 2016 box, or Win 2016's SRVR is the name of it. So that's what we're going to call it. So I'm going to say add server endpoint. So I'm going to say enter. I'm going to click on that button, and it's going to, it already knows the register server. Okay, so it's going to pick that up. Okay, and it's called Win 2016 server. All right, and the path. Now the path we know is we wanted to go to that F:\KB folder that we've already created and we have stuff in. We want that to merge up to the file share. Okay, so but if you want to put in a blank folder, then fill it in later, you can do that also, and it will automatically create it and sync it up with that folder. But I'm going to go ahead and use a name that I've already got established there called F:\KB. All right. For our purposes and to get our solution of this three-part series done, I'm not going to go into cloud tiering and offline data transfer. You can look that up. It basically is how and we're going to create. Okay. This takes a couple minutes, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and that's all there is to it. Basically, now I'm going to demonstrate how this whole thing works. So basically, it connected up to the KB. We're going to go back to our VM. I'm also going to pull up my File Explorer, which is software that's a little bit that you can download that allows you to look at your accounts better. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and refresh this. We should see our storage account. So that's a demo test, right? So now we're going to go and look at our file shares. And notice we have demo tests, right? Now, before we look at if there's anything in there, we know there wasn't anything. I'm going to jump back over to our VM. And I set it up to look at the FKB, right? And FKB, I have a users folder, and I have data under this users folder and folders, etc., etc. A whole structure, a bunch of structures here, right? Let's see if I can find something that's in here. App data, probably. There we go. So you got different folders, and somewhere in here there's files too. So that's how that works. So we're going to go ahead and look to see if that transferred yet. So I'm going to go out of the VM. I come into this Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer. I double click, and there it is. So it's already pushed that data up. So there's my users, all the structures, everything. It's already up there, right? So now let's go back to the VM and let's just create a file real quick. So I say new text folder, and we'll call this test for sync.text. We'll go into that real quick and say this is a test. Okay, and I'm going to save it. So if the sync is working properly, which I think it is, we should be able to go back over. So again, we're on the VM here. And I should go right over to this file share. The file share up on Azure, right? I should be able to go into test, and I should be able to go to the root of test, and there it is, test for sync. You see? So I double click on it, and I should see. Let's see if it pulls it up. Download file. Okay, there it is. This is a test. So as you see, it's synced up together. Okay, so that's our test there. Now, this is the very last part of the video and the video series. So let me show you how this all ties together. So we have the test here, we have the demo here, and in video 2, I had made a drive map to that KB up on this VM in part 2. So what's happened is that we have three pieces going now. We have my local machine, we have the VM, and we have the file storage up on the Azure portal, right? So now if I come in here and if I go down to my local machine, and I look at my map drive that I set up over on in part 2, for my purposes, I'm gonna work on my local machine and push everything up to VM and into the file share. I go here and I go ahead and create another. Again, I'm in my local drive. I create another text file and I call it Greg Test. Right? Just create a folder there. That's now is what's basically it looks like it's created my local drive, but since it's mapped to the X drive, it's being created on my VM up there. So if we go up to the VM, I should see Greg Test. I do. Now if I go from there up to the file share sync, now when I go up to the file network share here, right? And I do a refresh, there it is, Greg Test text. So we're in good shape here as far as what we're trying to accomplish, and we accomplished our goal that we set back in part 1 of this series. I hope you enjoyed this series, and thanks a lot for watching.